Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC Vegas 84, Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker 2, and this is going to be my full card predictions. I'm going to go through every single fight on the card and give you a quick breakdown and prediction. And I usually crap on the UFC Apex cards. This is actually a very, very good UFC Apex card. Starting off with the first fight of the night, Felipe Bunes versus Joshua Van. This is actually a fairly easy fight to pick for me. I'm going Joshua Van via decision. I think he has the crisper boxing. I think he's the faster fighter overall. And he's 22 years old versus Bunes, who's 34 years old. And Bunes is coming from LFA. This is going to be his UFC debut. He was a champion in LFA. He won the belt in his last fight. But you look, just 3 fights ago, he lost to Jussier Formiga, who was a former UFC fighter as well. And then, 5 fights ago, he lost to a guy who's 10-1, but that's a long time ago, honestly. But he hasn't been that active. In the last 4 years, he has 5 fights. So that's, basically a fight a year, a little over a fight a year. Joshua Van coming off that win against Kevin Borjas, where he lost the first round, was getting clipped up, taking a lot of leg kicks as well, started ripping to the body in the second round. And I just think in this fight, Joshua Van, just the better, crisper boxer. I think he has, the speed advantage as well. And also, I think he's very well-rounded. And he's just younger, more athletic, 22 years old versus 24 years old. Bunes does have a massive reach advantage, a 6-inch reach advantage, but I think Joshua Van will be able to close the distance, has an excellent jab. I think he'll be ripping to the body. And I also think if anyone mixes in the grappling, it'll probably be Joshua Van. So I'm going to go Joshua Van via decision. I see this being a very exciting fight. I could see Van getting the finish. He does have, once he hurts a guy, he really starts to put on the pressure. But I'm going to pick him to win like a 29-28 decision. Moving up on the card, we have Tom Nolan versus Nikolas Motta. This is an easy fight to pick. Tom Nolan's coming off of Dana White's Contender Series. Nikolas Motta's coming off a no contest against Trey Ogden in a fight that he clearly lost and that he was going to probably get finished in, but the referee stopped it too early during an arm triangle. But even if it went to decision, another like 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, he was going to lose the decision anyway. And Nikolas Motta is a guy who's basically been trading wins and losses, got brutally KO'd by Manel Torres the fight before that, has a win over Cameron Van Camp, lost to Jim Miller, got KO'd there. I'm going Tom Nolan. I think this is a fight where they're setting up Tom Nolan. They like to set up the Dana White's Contender Series guys to go out there and get a win. And Tom Nolan's fast, powerful, undefeated. And Nikolas Motta is just not great anywhere and doesn't really have any great wins. He has some decent striking. I even picked him in his last fight against Trey Ogden. But after I seen that performance, the striking didn't look that good. He looks slower. He's been taking a lot of damage, took damage in that fight, was getting out-grappled in that fight as well. So I'm going to go Tom Nolan. I'm going to say first round KO. I'm going to say he gets Motta out of there, clips him up on the feet badly, hurts him bad, swarms him and finishes him. Moving up on the card, we have Westin Wilson versus Jean Silva or Jean Silva. I don't know exactly how you pronounce his name. But you have the undefeated, or not undefeated Brazilian. You have the Brazilian coming off of Dana White's Contender Series. He's 11-2. He's not undefeated. He's a massive favorite. I'm looking at it on Tapology right here. He's negative 800. That is crazy, but I mean, that makes sense. Westin Wilson is not a good fighter. He fought Joe Anderson Brito in his last fight, got slaughtered there. His last win was, against a guy who's 8-5. You look at the opponent before that, 4-3. The guy 3 fights ago, which is 1 year and 3 months ago for Westin Wilson, was against a guy who's 9-19. Then you look at, his last loss before the last fight, he lost to a guy who's 11-9, and he's 34 years old. Westin Wilson got caught up on short notice against Joe Anderson Brito, got literally slaughtered by Joe Anderson Brito. And I expect the same thing to happen here. I think the UFC is just feeding him to Silva as a way to prop up another Dana White's Contender Series guy. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Westin Wilson isn't particularly great anywhere, gets clipped up on the feet, hasn't fought good competition, isn't particularly fast, is 34 years old, where he's fighting a Silva who's 27 years old. So I'm going to go Silva. I'm going to say first round KO. I think he gets Wilson out of there with relative ease. Moving up on the card, this is probably the best prelim on this entire card, and that is Farid Basharat versus Taylor Lapilus. This is a banger fight. I mean, you have Basharat undefeated 11-0. You have Lapilus 19-3. Beat Cohen-Lachran, I think is how you pronounce it, in his last fight, where he just kind of picked him apart from the outside. He did get taken down a little bit and controlled a bit in that fight, but he clearly won the fight. You have Basharat coming in off that win, the submission win over Cledson Rodriguez. And Basharat has just looked incredible. Got a win over Damon Blackshear the fight before that. Then before that came off of Dana White's Contender Series. This is an interesting matchup because Basharat clearly wants to grapple, but he has decent striking. I think his striking is getting better. And Taylor Lapilus, he's a very good striker. He has good kicks. He has good punches. He's fast on the feet. He has good footwork as well. And I think this is one of those matchups where I don't think Basharat, if he can't get the takedown, I don't think he'll win on the feet. Unless he puts enough fear in Lapilus of the takedown that he's able to land on the feet. But I think Basharat has really good takedowns. He has good takedown defense as well. Rodriguez, I think, attempted 1 or 2 takedowns in their fight. He was able to stuff them, or one of them, I think, got taken down just off of explosiveness, but scrambled right back up, wasn't even down for 1 second. And, you know, we saw Lapilus get taken down a few times against Loughran, and I know Loughran didn't control him for like prolonged periods of time, but he was able to get him down quite a few times. So I'm going to go for Farid Basharat. I think he's got a grappling advantage here. I think he has a jiu-jitsu advantage as well. I could see maybe Basharat finding a submission, but I think, you know, early he's going to struggle a little bit because I think Lapilus is going to be using his footwork very well, using straight punches, teep kicks to the body to try to keep the distance. But I think Basharat will find a takedown early, and I think he'll just be able to take him down, control him, look to work submissions. Maybe he'll find a submission, maybe he won't. But I'm going to go Basharat via decision. I'm going to say it's going to be a dominant decision, a 30-27 decision, but I think this could be one of those fights where maybe the first round goes to Lapilus, he just kind of edges him out on the feet, but Basharat, I think he's decent enough on the feet as well. So I think Basharat can have some success, even if he's not like dominant on the ground. Let's say Lapilus gets back to his feet like he did in the Loughran fight. I think Basharat, with the fear of the takedown, if he's able to have a little bit of success with the takedowns, I think his striking is getting better fight to fight, and I think he can have some success on the feet as well. So I'm going to go for Farid Basharat, 30-27 decision. Moving up on the card, we have Marcus McGhee versus Gaston Bolaños. This is an interesting matchup. I like this fight. And, you know, Marcus McGhee kind of came out of nowhere. You know, he destroyed JP Bays in his last fight, which is expected. Beat Journey Newsom, I believe, on short notice. Submitted him there. Before that, he was in LFA. He's 33 years old, so he could arguably be in his prime right now. It's now or never for Marcus McGhee. And he's fighting a guy in Gaston Bolaños, who's a decent striker, but can be taken down. Has some okay power as well. Making his, you know, his second appearance in the UFC. He's a former Bellator guy. Got a win over Aaron Phillips in his last fight. Was kind of not the best performance by any means. When I watch both of them striking, I see Marcus McGhee far faster, far more athletic, and I think McGhee is the kind of a complete package. I'm not saying he's like elite of the elite on the ground, but has good wrestling, has good offensive takedowns, and I think Bolaños, you know, I watched some of his fights, he can be taken down. He got taken down by Phillips in his last fight as well. So I think McGhee gets this done. It's just a matter of how does he get it done. I'm going to go McGhee via second round TKO. Has good power on the feet. I think he can mix in the takedown if he needs to. And he's just way more athletic and I think way more explosive than someone like Bolaños. So I'm going to go Marcus McGhee second round TKO. Moving up on the card, we have Matheus Semelsberger versus Preston Parsons. This is a hard fight to pick, to be quite honest. You have Matheus Semelsberger coming in on a 2-fight losing streak. Lost to Udos Medic in his last fight. Got KO'd there. Had some success in that fight, but just wouldn't listen to his corner. Same thing with the Jeremiah Wells fight. Fight before that got a win over Jake Matthews, who had us thinking Matheus Semelsberger was a world beater. Fight before that lost to Alex Moreno. So he's lost 3 out of his last 4. You have Preston Parsons, lost to Trevin Giles in his last fight. Has a win over Evan Elder and then a loss to Daniel Rodriguez via KO, but that's 2.5 years ago. Hasn't been super active. Preston Parsons hasn't been super active. I think this comes down to kind of striker versus grappler, to be honest. Matheus Semelsberger has some nasty power. He has some nasty power, but he literally has no fight IQ. He hurt Udos Medic badly, I think. It was Udos Medic and Jeremiah Wells. And then instead of letting them up while his corner is yelling to let him up, he just goes in their guard and just lays in their guard. Eventually gets finished by Udos Medic. And, I mean, this was multiple times in both those fights. He lost the Jeremiah Wells fight, split decision, very close fight. Preston Parsons has okay striking, but he primarily wants to grapple. And the Trevin Giles fight isn't a horrible loss. It was a very close fight. It was a split decision. Trevin Giles has good striking, kind of throws hands from different angles. I could see Matheus Semelsberger going out there and KOing him. And that was kind of my initial pick before I started watching some fight footage. But Semelsberger can be out-grappled. He got out-grappled by Jeremiah Wells, and that's kind of what lost him the fight there along with his fight IQ. So I'm going to go Preston Parsons. I'm going to say he gets him down, and I'm going to say he finds a submission. Preston Parsons has some submissions on his record, has some decent jiu-jitsu. Matheus Semelsberger literally just has, it seems like he has nothing off of his back. Once he gets taken down, it's just like he doesn't know what to do there. So I'm going to go Parsons. I think he's going to finish him. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to say Preston Parsons second round arm triangle. I think he has a few arm triangles on his record, but I just think Parsons, as long as he can get him down, he can easily out-grapple Matheus Semelsberger. And I think the Jake Matthews performance for Semelsberger was just an aberration. Moving up on the card, we have a heavyweight matchup, Andrei Arlovski versus Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Ew is what I want to say for this fight. I mean, Andrei Arlovski's 44 years old. Why is he still around? Got KO'd by Dontel Mays in his last fight. Fight before that, got submitted by Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Fight before that, split decision win over Jake Collier. Fight before that, split decision win over Jared Vanderaa. I don't know, guys. To be honest, I can't pick Andrei Arlovski. I was torn on the last fight against Dontel Mays. I picked Dontel Mays by KO. He went out there and got it done. Waldo Cortes-Acosta is coming off the win over Lucas Dresky. Did punch him in the back of the head. Maybe Dresky could have appealed that. It was a finishing punch right to the dead center of the back of the head as Dresky was hurt and turned around. Acosta, his biggest weakness is he doesn't know how to check a kick. And don't get me wrong, Arlovski has some decent kicks, but I just think Arlovski's too old and he's been KO'd so many times. And I think Acosta has decently fast hands, has decent power. Coming off a KO win. Before that, he lost to Marcos Rogerio de Lima, but unanimous loss there. It went to decision, didn't get finished there. As a win over Chase Sherman, win over Jared Vanderaa, unanimous wins, by the way, not splits like Andrei Arlovski. I think Waldo Cortes-Acosta gets it done. I'm going to go first round KO. Arlovski, at one point, I remember thinking he should retire when he was in World Series of Fighting. He was getting KO'd so many times. And then he kind of had a career resurgence, came back to the UFC. At one point, almost got a title shot. I think it was like a #1 contender fight, almost against Stipe Miocic at one point in time. That's when Stipe kind of had his rise. But he's done. That was years ago. The experience is crazy. 34-22 is the overall record. But I think Acosta, faster hands, more power, and more durability. I'm going to go Acosta via first round KO. Moving up on the card, we have Phil Hawes versus Bruno Ferreira. This fight is kind of easy to pick for me. I think Phil Hawes is actually a decent fighter, to be honest. He has good grappling, has good hands, has good striking overall, has decent power, but he's getting brutally KO'd badly every fight. I mean, Ikram Alaskarov in that fight, Hawes was having a little bit of success, gets hurt badly and finished and put out cold. Fight before that, similar thing against Roman Dolidze. Then he had a win against Deron Win, but that guy looked like a lightweight version of Daniel Cormier, if I'm not mistaken. Fight before that, lost to Chris Curtis, got KO'd there. His last 2 wins are horrible. One of them is against Kyle Dawkins. Bruno Ferreira coming off that loss against Nursultan Ruzaboyev, where he got brutally KO'd, and then Nursultan Ruzaboyev went and celebrated with his coach, best celebration in the sport. But before that, came in on short notice against Gregory Rodriguez and got a nasty KO. I think that's a solid win. Bruno Ferreira is really good everywhere, has good power. I feel like he might be in the wrong weight class. I feel like maybe he could make welterweight, but I'm not sure. But I look at this matchup, I know, you look at Hawes, he has a 5.5-inch reach advantage, and he's actually decent, but he's 35 years old, been brutally chinned in 3 out of his last 4 fights. I have to go Bruno Ferreira by KO in this one. It's just a matter of how soon does it happen. And also, Ferreira took some time off after that kind of loss to Nursultan. It's been 6 months since that loss, so he's taken some time off. It's not like he's returning too quickly. Phil Hawes, 7 months since the Ikram loss. I believe that was 291. Maybe that was, I don't remember exactly when that was. But, yeah, I'm going to go Bruno Ferreira. I'm going to say first round KO. I don't trust Phil Hawes' chin at all, and I think he gets brutally chinned in the first round in this fight. Moving up on the card, one of my favorite fights on the main card, Ricky Simón versus Mario Bautista. This is one of the toughest fights to pick on the card. I think this may have been the toughest fight for me to pick on the card. And I flipped back and forth because Ricky Simón's coming off a loss to Song Yadong, where he got finished in the 5th round, had a little bit of success with the grappling, but really couldn't find any success with the hands at all. Fight before that, one against Jack Shore, where he hurt him and then submitted him. Fight before that, win over Rafael Sunsao. But, Ricky Simón is just like, he's never really been able to get over that hump. He's never really been able to get that kind of statement win. It would have been against Song Yadong, would have been a quality win that would have propelled him kind of into the top 10. And then you have Mario Bautista, who's on a good run right now, at least on a 5-fight winning streak right now. Win over Damon Blackshear, very close fight. Got out-grappled a bit in that fight, which is alarming coming in this Ricky Simón fight. Got taken down by Damon Blackshear, and a lot of people thought, you could have gave it to Blackshear 29-28. I had it for Mario Bautista, but it was very close. And then you look at his wins, they're not particularly good. This is his opportunity to kind of get a decent statement win to kind of propel him into the top 15, because the win before that's against Guido Canetti. Win before that, Benito Lopez. So these are 2 guys, win before that, Brian Kelleher, that don't really have quality wins. I would say Ricky Simón has the better wins, Jack Shore, Rafael Sunsao. Brian Kelleher, which is okay, but again, it's not the greatest, and they both have a win over Brian Kelleher. I think Mario Bautista has a jiu-jitsu advantage. I think Mario Bautista has a slight striking advantage, but I think Ricky Simón has a really solid grappling advantage, but he doesn't do a lot of damage with it. It's like he gets you down, doesn't get off a whole lot of damage, has some submission ability as well, submitted Jack Shore. I flipped back and forth on this fight, and honestly, this is one of those matchups I feel could go either way. But I watched in his last fight against Damon Blackshear, he's getting taken down and controlled. And I know, it wasn't like for crazy long periods of time, and he did scramble back to his feet, and he did threaten with some submissions. But I think he's going to be working on that over the last few months. That was 4 months ago, going on 5 months ago. I think he's been working on that. Ricky Simón doesn't have the best entries and explosive entries, and also his striking isn't that good. Kind of throws heavy hooks and kind of prays they land. I think Mario Bautista is the better striker. I think he has some decent jiu-jitsu. I think he's going to be working on the grappling. Even took Damon Blackshear. And I think a lot of people are going to look at that Damon Blackshear fight and pick Ricky Simón. But I think Damon Blackshear's grappling is better than people give it credit for. So I'm going to go Mario Bautista via decision. I think it's going to be a razor-close fight. I'm going to say a 29-28 decision for Mario Bautista. I could also see him snatching up a guillotine on a sloppy shot from Ricky Simón, but I'm going to go Mario Bautista via decision. Moving up on the card to the featured fight on the main card, we have Jim Miller versus Gabriel Benítez. It's another tough fight to pick. This is a solid main card. Jim Miller's 40 years old. Whenever I see somebody that's 40 years old, especially at a lower weight class, it's very hard for me to pick him. Coming off a win over Jesse Butler, who stepped in on short notice, got brutally KO'd. Before that, lost the decision to Alexander Hernandez, who honestly kind of is overrated in his own respect. Fight before that has a win over Donald Cerrone. Got a guillotine there, but Donald Cerrone on his way out. Fight before that, win over Nicolas Motta. Not a quality win. Fight over that before that, not Nicolas Motta, Eric Gonzalez. Gabriel Benítez, lost 3 out of his last 5. Has a win over Charlie Ontiveros in his last fight, which was an absolute war. Before that, got KO'd by David Onama, but people forget he hurt David Onama in that fight as well. So had some success against David Onama before he got slept out. Fight before that, got KO'd by Billy Q. Fight before that, win over Justin James, not a great win. And then a fight before that, a loss against Omar Morales. Isn't the worst loss to have. That was a while ago. So I'm looking at his losses, David Onama and also Billy Q. They're not too horrible losses to have, even though he got finished. I'm going to go Gabriel Benítez. I just think he's faster. I think he's ready for a war. He's taken some time off since his last fight. He's going to be refreshed. Jim Miller's kind of been staying active. I mean, it was only 6 months ago, but he didn't even really take any damage in that fight. But he took damage in Alexander Hernandez's fight. And I just think Benítez is going to be faster, more athletic. I'm not picking a 40-year-old Jim Miller. Maybe he goes out there and turns another younger guy back. But, I mean, Benítez is 35 years old himself. But I just think Benítez has good enough grappling. It's not like Jim Miller's going to be able to grapple him. Jim Miller's just kind of a decently mediocre, well-rounded fighter. And he's 40 years old. His skills are diminishing. I think Gabriel Benítez is going to go out there and get a finish. I think Jim Miller throws kind of looping shots. They're slow. You can see him coming from a mile away. And I'm going to go Gabriel Benítez to get a second-round KO. I think he's going to be a little bit tentative early. Jim Miller's going to be throwing those looping hooks himself. Has a little bit of speed early, but Jim Miller starts to slow down. And I'm going to go Benítez to kind of catch him. Benítez will go to war. So if Jim Miller tries to spam a couple hooks, there's a chance Benítez just bites down the mouthpiece and throws back, and then maybe he gets clipped. But I think Benítez is just faster on the feet, has decent body shots. Was ripping him in the Onama fight. And I just think he's going to clip Jim Miller, 40-year-old Jim Miller, going to clip him and put him away. So I'm going Benítez second round TKO. Moving up on the card, the co-main event, Matheus Nicolau versus Manel Kape 2. This was a fight from roughly 3 years ago. Nicolau got the win. It was a close fight. Honestly, I probably would have gave it to Manel Kape. I think rounds 2 and 3 I had for Kape, but I don't 100% remember for sure, even though I just recently rewatched it. This is a matchup that honestly I think could go either way. But Nicolau's a guy that just likes to go out there, circle, 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 shoot a takedown. Circle, 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 throw a combination with a big power shot. And he's coming off a loss against Brandon Royval where he was circling, 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 and then Royval caught him with a kind of like an offbeat flying knee and KO'd him. Fight before that had a win over Matt Schnell where he was circling and circling and circling and then threw like a power shot, clipped him and put him away. Before that, a decision win over David Dvorak. Before that, a decision win over Tim Elliott. Nicolau's a solid fighter in the flyweight division. He's well-rounded. But I don't think his fight style can compete with some of the elite at flyweight. I mean, I know he kind of already is, but like when you get up to like a Brandon Moreno, Amir Albazi, Alexandre Pantoja, just that circling and circling and just trying to kind of blitz forward and throw some shots and shoot a takedown. I do think he has a grappling advantage over Manel Kape, or a slight grappling advantage over Manel Kape. He took him down in the first fight. That's what won him that fight. But I think Manel Kape has worked on his takedown defense. And Manel Kape in his last fight, I don't want to say he got exposed, but he took on a guy making his UFC debut who looked much smaller than him in Felipe Dos Santos, and it was a very competitive fight. Dos Santos, if he had more pop on his punches, could have put Kape away because he was landing at will on Kape's chin. But Kape's got a very good chin, very good counter shots, very good striking, good takedown defense. Also, good jiu-jitsu as well. I think it was against David Dvorak first round. Got taken down, almost got a Kimura, but the bell saved David Dvorak. So I have to go Manel Kape in this fight. I don't know if he's going to KO Nicolau because I think Manel Kape's kind of power is a little bit overrated. I mean, he's gotten some decent KO wins, but it's against Zumagulov and his bowl cut and Ode Osborne, which was a flying knee. So I don't think Manel Kape has like that nuclear power, and I think Nicolau's going to kind of frustrate him, moving side to side, shoot in on a takedown. But I think Kape is going to be able to stuff the takedowns, land on the feet, land counter shots. He might get taken down once or twice, but he'll be able to get back up, and Nicolau won't be able to get off that much damage. And I think Kape has just improved more than Nicolau over the past few years. And I think he'll kind of shore up that hole in his game of the takedown defense. And it's not like Nicolau has this unbelievable jiu-jitsu like Alexandre Pantoja where he can get to the back and control you for long periods of time. So I think Kape wins this fight, but I think this fight has the potential to be a snoozer just because Nicolau is going to be circling and circling and circling, exploding in, looking for takedowns. Kape's going to be worried about the takedown. So maybe Nicolau could catch him with something, you know, as Kape's kind of expecting a shot. But I think Kape goes out there, gets it done with his striking, with his takedown defense, and I'm going to say he's going to win a 30-27 decision. Moving up on the card to the main event, we have Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker 2. This fight happened at UFC 294. You had Ankalaev that hurt Johnny Walker to the body. Johnny Walker then throws a flying knee, gets taken down, gets beat up a bit on the ground, but it's up against the fence. Then Ankalaev throws an illegal knee as Johnny Walker's like almost starting to make his way back to his feet. Johnny Walker's not really hurt too badly. For whatever reason, the doctor stops it. Johnny Walker doesn't answer a question correctly in the you know, when he's checking on him. So they stop the fight. They rebook it for January. So now here we are. I mean, how crazy is that? That's already been, I guess, 3 months because it happened in late October. So by the time this fight actually happens, it will be basically 3 months. But in this original matchup, I picked Magomed Ankalaev, and I don't know if I saw enough in that fight to switch my pick. I think this is going to be a very similar fight to the first fight. I think Johnny Walker's going to try to chop those legs. Magomed Ankalaev, that's his biggest weakness. He has that wide stance. He likes to strike. I know a lot of people see the name, and they think he's going to be a grappler, but he gets his legs battered. You know, he got his legs battered against Jan Blachowicz. Arguably, Magomed Ankalaev could be the champion right now. I thought he won the fight against Jan Blachowicz. I think it was 1-4-5, if I'm not mistaken, but it ended up being 4-5 for Ankalaev. He had a 10-8 fifth round, I believe. But in that fight, he got his legs brutalized. And then, you know, he gets a, you know, fight against Johnny Walker, goes out there, throws an illegal knee. That's his problem. He shouldn't have thrown it to begin with. But the fight should have been able to continue. But I think Ankalaev's just better everywhere. I think he's the better striker. I think unless Johnny Walker really compromises that leg early, which he was doing in the first fight, was brutalizing that leg. But Ankalaev was already starting to get a little bit lighter on the feet in that fight. Even though he was eating some of those legs and he's, you know, southpaw. Meanwhile, Walker is orthodox and he was kind of just blasting that inside leg kick. I think Ankalaev's been working on that since this fight. He worked on it since the Jan Blachowicz fight. And I just think Walker has to catch him with something crazy like that flying knee to really put him out. I think Ankalaev's the better striker. Ankalaev landed a head kick in this fight, landed some nasty body shots, landed some good leg kicks of his own. I think he's the better grappler as well. He can mix in the takedowns. And I don't trust Johnny Walker's chin. And then also you look at Johnny Walker's recent wins. Anthony Smith, dead body. Paul Craig, dead body. Ion Cutelaba, dead body, basically. And I know, okay, he's going out there, he's finishing Paul Craig, but I mean, so is Brendan Allen at this point. Ion Cutelaba, literal dead body. And then he has a loss against Jamal Hill where he got brutally KO'd. I know Jamal Hill is at the top of the division right now, so that's not a horrible loss, but Ankalaev has one loss. It's to Paul Craig, and he was winning the fight and got caught in a submission last second. So not a horrible loss to have, and that was forever ago. So I just think Magomed Ankalaev, and I get it, you know, he has a win over Anthony Smith too, but that was kind of a little bit before Anthony Smith was a dead body. I mean, he was already kind of there. Win over Thiago Santos, who has good power as well. Santos wasn't able to catch him. I just think Ankalaev is going to be throwing those teep kicks to the body. I think he's going to be checking leg kicks. He's going to take some of them. I think he's going to mix in the takedowns. I think he has the crisper hands. I think he has the crisper kicks overall. Magomed Ankalaev, his striking, his primary weapon is his kicks. He landed a head kick in the first fight. Where Johnny Walker, chin isn't that good. couldn't finish the dead body of Anthony Smith. I mean, Anthony Smith was basically asking to be finished, couldn't finish him. And Ankalaev went out there, destroyed Anthony Smith when he was asking to be finished on all fours. And I just think Ankalaev is better everywhere. And I think Johnny Walker has to find that home run shot, that flying knee like he did when he got hit with the body shot. Maybe he wasn't even hurt. It was a heavy body shot. I went back and rewatched it. It was a very heavy body shot. So I don't know if he was actually hurt or not. It seemed like he actually was. But he's going to have to catch him with something like that. Or he's going to have to really compromise the leg early and often and then hope that pays dividends later. But I think Magomed Ankalaev gets it done. I could see Ankalaev finding a KO, but Ankalaev, I think he's going to be a little bit tentative early because he knows how explosive Johnny Walker is. But I think Johnny Walker knows that his chin isn't that great, and he's going to be worried about the shots, and he's going to be fainting and be very tentative. I mean, we've seen how, tentative he was against, I think it was Thiago Santos as well. I think it was for Johnny Walker, was super tentative in that fight and was just, fainting over and over and over again. I believe it was that matchup. But I think Johnny Walker has to find that explosive shot. Otherwise, he's going to lose to Magomed Ankalaev via decision. Or Ankalaev, if Johnny Walker does start to get a little bit crazy and wild, I think Ankalaev will be able to finish him, catch him with a big shot as Johnny Walker's rushing in and finishing him. But I'm going to go Magomed Ankalaev via decision. I'm going to say 30-27 decision win for Ankalaev. I say he lands on the feet, has better shots with his hands, has better kicks as well, mixes in the grappling a little bit as well when Johnny Walker gets a little wild and crazy and throws a flying knee or catches a kick and takes Johnny Walker down, beats him up a little bit with ground and pound. And unless Johnny Walker really finds that kill shot, I think Magomed Ankalaev gets it done. So I'm picking him to win this fight. Let me know what you guys think of my predictions down in the comments. Who are you picking in the main event? Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.